Moira Baker kidnapped Ted, Simon is the voice in the warehouse, and Carson Drew gets arrested for the murder of Lucy Sable. It's all happening here at AfterBuzz TV. Stay tuned.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hello! Welcome, everyone. Welcome, AfterBuzzers, to the Nancy Drew After Show. Tonight, we're breaking down Season 1, Episode 9. It's the winter finale. I'm your host, Chelsie Overocker. And over to my far left, I have Suzi G here.
What's up, guys?
And Suzi G is just a lover of all the CW shows.
Yes, I am.
And you're loving this one.
Very much so tonight.
Yes. And Lucy. And Suzi here is also in our live chat. So if you're in our chat room, say hello. And if you are a podcast listener and would like to join in, simply go to AfterBuzzTV.com, select our show, and join in all the fun. And right next to Suzi, we have Sam here.
Hi. How's it going?
Samantha Jacobs, she just loves all of the Nancy Drew books.
I do. I read them all.
You read them all.
I love that the titles of each episode relate to the book. So that's cool.
This one is The Hidden Staircase.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
It's a good one. All right. So for tonight's episode, we're going to be breaking it down. We have a new character, Nathan Gomber. Yes, Nathan Gomber, and how his involvement is with Simon in the warehouse and with Ted's kidnap. So that's going to be our first topic that we're going to discuss. And then we talk about Nancy and Carson and their visit to the warehouse and how that stirs up Nancy's first case with Rose Turnbull and how she has some memories and flashbacks of that. So we'll dive into it. And then topic 3, we have Carson gets arrested for Lucy Sable's murder. Did we see that one coming? And did we think that Karen was going to be the one to throw him under the bus? We'll dive into that. But you're going to want to stick around because we have our special segment of Whodunit. And then our news and gossip, we have it with Suzi this week. And there is a new computer video game of Nancy Drew, which I'm excited for because that's how I fell in love with Nancy Drew, was through those computer games. So I cannot wait to see what the new one is going to be about. So before we get into it, what was your guys' overall thoughts?
This was a good one. This got me at the end, obviously, the big twist. But I wasn't expecting them to find Ted.
You weren't.
I was not. So
No.
I thought they would maybe drag it on another episode. So this was, that was my thought. I was like, okay, we're going to do this.
Yeah. What about you, Suzi?
I mean, I think for the mid-season finale, it was great because, again, the last episode I really enjoyed, but this one I knew there was going to be some twists and turns, and I liked that there was this, like, father-son moment and our hearts were warm, and then it was like, bam.
Yeah.
And to, jail he goes. So I thought that it was really well done.
It took me by surprise because before I watched this episode, I was thinking, okay, was this a supernatural presence that took Ted, or was it an actual person? Like, I was debating between those two. I know last week we kind of touched base on that we thought it was more supernatural, but throughout the week I was thinking, no, maybe it isn't actual person, and they could be working with the supernatural force, which that's what it turned out to be. So what do you guys think about our new character, Nathan?
He's a mess. But I like it.
You like it?
I like him in the picture, right?
Yeah.
I think that I like that they're mixing both the reality and the spooky. It's a little Riverdale-y where you're kind of playing with the spiritualness. But I like it. It's a good fit for this. I don't think if it was just a general normal case without this spirit, then it'd be kind of lackluster, you know?
I know. I really liked how they used, they needed a body, kind of like a human being to get the child to sacrifice it. So I didn't see that coming, and each episode becomes more and more kind of supernatural. And I thought it was really interesting this week. Like, I like the way that they did it because, again, it's just a whole new Nancy Drew.
It is. And it was interesting when Nancy went into the room where Ted got kidnapped, and then they have that wax symbol, and they were able to connect it back to Simon's warehouse because that was the symbol that he uses to call out Simon. Like, that's what Nathan used. And then they also have the tattoo as well. No, I'm sorry. I think the tattoo was to call out Simon. But that symbol again, what was it again? What was the pattern for that?
The symbol was, it could be kind of like an occult symbol. So
Okay.
basically it was just a symbol that Nancy had seen around Rose. And then again, that symbol kind of turned up
Right.
again when Ted disappeared. And so it was kind of like a wax symbolism, and just kind of like that's how Nancy kind of drew that it was the same being or entity that, you know, had messed with Rose.
Got it. It was kind of like the trademark
Right.
of Simon, basically. And then they had the tattoo. It looked similar though to the wax pattern though, didn't you guys think? Like the tattoo that Nathan had and Moira had as well, and they had it on the door. Was that similar to the wax figure with the swirls? Just a little bit?
I would say they were similar, but they're not the same.
They're not the
thing.
same,
Like
yeah.
the circle was in the tattoo, but then the tattoo had other lines around it.
Right. Yeah.
But then it kind of, if you paid attention to when Nancy was burning the paper, the blood marks on there looked like the wax.
Got it.
So, like,
okay. So
I don't know if that goes together or if they drew that. I don't know.
there had to be, there had to be some
Right.
connection between that tattoo and the wax figure. That was my question, was kind of what was the connection with it.
Or
Right.
I was wondering, you know, how their arms started to hurt. I
Yeah.
wonder if they pulled up their sleeve, if
I
it
know, I
looked
wanted
like
to
that. And
see
I was like,
that.
well, I want to see it. Because then
Me
I tried to see
too.
if the blood made a pattern on their clothes, but nothing.
But
No.
also their arms kind of both bled in the same place that they had to cut themselves.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of another, because they had to slash themselves with that knife. And so I think she did the same thing. And
Yeah.
so I think that was kind of where that all came to be. I mean, I don't know if, you know, Nathan already had that tattoo, or if that tattoo, you know, was a symbol of Simon. They didn't really kind of dive into that totally. So it might have just been like she had the same tattoo because she came and visited him, and she was the next person that was going to, you know, be able to take a child for Simon.
Right. And a little background about Nathan. So he was a real estate agent, it sounds like, and he made a deal with the Marvins. And Owen knows him a little bit from when he went back to college. Nathan would be there. But then after holiday break is when Nathan did a 180 almost and had like a completely different personality. And then that takes place of when he kidnapped Rose. So was it really clear on why Nathan got involved with Simon in the first place, besides just money or power or fame is kind of what they were guessing?
No, I didn't catch that. I don't think so.
I mean, mostly that he was doing deals, you know, with Pinehurst, right, or Pine Hill with the Marvins.
Yeah.
And that was going well, and then he completely changed. But it didn't really dive into how that occurred with him encountering Simon.
Do you now think that the Marvins have a connection with Simon? Because it's just a weird timeline where Nathan, 'cause even Owen said he's just this very nice guy. Like, I can't believe he turned and he would do this to Rose. Do you think that somehow the Marvins knew about Simon beforehand and wanted Nathan to get involved in order to maybe help Nathan out with his career with real estate, and then it just went bad?
I know.
I mean, I don't know what the Marvins would do, but I just feel like in this town we have the Hudsons and then we have the Marvins, and supernatural element is a huge part of this show.
Right.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't put it past, because I know the Hudsons kind of had their supernatural a couple episodes back with the party that Nancy finds out with Sebastian and everyone that was involved with that. But with the Marvins, I feel like this is kind of their supernatural tale. I feel like they have more of a connection to Simon that we're going to figure out later on. But I'm just wondering if they're the ones that kind of set Nathan up a little bit.
I mean, that's actually a very good thought process, because if you go back to when they were doing at the ball, I mean, there's supernatural things that have been happening throughout this town, and ghosts and all of that for years, and people dying. And so they haven't really dived into that quite yet. But as you said, I mean, the Marvins might have had something to do with Nathan becoming more involved with this supernatural being.
Yeah.
I wouldn't beat it though, because they all mess around with that. So let's say he's some type of devilish character, some type of connection, like you sell your soul
Yeah.
type for money. So if the Marvins are connected with that, I feel like that would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But then maybe the way that they stay away and the supernatural doesn't hurt them is by putting these pawns, like Nathan, in awkward situations, so they just feel protected, but they're not like dealing firsthand.
That's what I'm thinking.
Type of thing.
And they said
Yeah.
the warehouse changed Nathan's personality.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into a little bit later, but that's when Nancy had the block out when she was a child, when she was 12 years old, to go rescue Rose
Right.
as well. So something's going down in that warehouse, I feel like. But with Nathan, I just feel like, he wouldn't just, if it was a nice, happy guy, why would he want to get himself involved with Simon in the first place?
Right.
That was kind of my question.
Right. And I think some of the people in the chat room are wondering, because it was 2013 when Nancy was 12 or 13, which makes sense, to 2019. She was about 19. So Rose must have been, because Rose is now 10 or 11. So, yeah, I mean, that would make sense that she was probably about like 5 or 6 when that kidnapping occurred. So that timeline is accurate. Some of the people are kind of confused on the age factor of Rose. But that didn't make sense that she's now the age she is.
And it's kind of cool how they're tying it back to Nancy's first case, because it all is connected.
Yeah.
And that was with Rose Turnbull. But I have a theory that Rose is somehow maybe connected to Lucy Sable as well. Possibly. Because with the whole, just why would Nathan want to kidnap Rose out of all the children?
Well, didn't they just say that Simon needed a child to be sacrificed? But they didn't really say what that sacrifice was for.
It was just for payment.
Yes.
But I feel like Simon has to have a certain child. It's just like they don't go ahead and sacrifice any child. I feel like there's a reasoning behind it, like
the
why
child that they
decided to sacrifice. With Ted, we know it's because of George and how she's connected with Nancy.
Yeah.
But back then, that was Nancy's first case, so it's not like she really got involved with too much cases back then. I feel like Rose somehow has a connection. Maybe somewhere down the line we'll figure out to something in the town to why she would want to be that child that Simon would want to sacrifice.
But it's really interesting to see them go back a little bit and dive deeper into that first case with Nancy, because we've seen like glimpses of it. And so now it was, interesting to find out that she basically did kind of block out some really hard memories. And we don't really find that. I didn't see that coming from Nancy because she seems so strong.
Yes.
So I kind of like that they threw that in there, because it just kind of made me see that Nancy's a little vulnerable.
Yeah, and she was able to get some of her memories. Well, I think some of her memories back. Not all of them. I think as time goes on, and in each episode, she'll kind of remember a little bit more, because now, they had destroyed Simon's lair.
Yeah.
So hopefully she'll get more memories back. But really quickly, going back to the Marvins, do you think Owen and Bess are cousins? Do you think that DNA test is going to come out positive?
Well, yeah.
I want it to. I want it
to?
to, but they're going to do something crazy where it's like she's actually a Hudson. Or like, you know what I mean? Something like off. But I think they're going to say yes, and then we get to explore the story of where the sister came from, or Owen's going to hide that it was a yes.
I had a fleeting kind of like thought when they had that little interaction. It was almost as though because Owen had said to her, like, my aunt said something to you. He saw an interaction between Bess and the aunt. And so I think that Owen is doing this because he does know that Bess is a Marvin, and he wants to pretend, because there's a whole nother story to that. So he wants to do a second DNA test so he can say, oh no, you really aren't part of us. Because I think that there's some kind of family, there's something that's going on.
And he probably will lose more of his money because now they have to cut her off.
Right.
So he's probably like, I don't want to give her my money.
And it's also funny in the chat room, because I actually had read this, but they're saying that like popular, like on Reddit, is Lucy Sable, dead Lucy, is she Nancy's biological mom?
Oh.
But I don't know if that could be.
I don't
Well, because she would be the same age as Detective Karen. Because they went to high
could
school
be.
together.
So we're thinking maybe Nancy's mom. We're thinking Nancy's mom is just like her stepmom, and it just never really was. That's a crazy theory.
That's a theory.
I don't know.
It's a hereditary. I mean, but
Yeah.
again, that would throw everything for a loop. But I don't necessarily believe that that's going to be what happens. But I'm like, oh, these theories are fabulous.
That's a good theory, chat room. It's a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of, and then a little bit with Moira. So in last episode, you know, Bess knew who she was because she gave her that big tip. But then, did they ever explain how Moira and Nathan got together? Like how they became love interests to each other? So that's still another mystery.
No, because Karen just said that she had been logging in every single day to see him, and that was kind of it.
And we're just assuming that the reason why Moira and Nathan are working with Simon again is so Simon can free Nathan. Is that kind of the expectations in all of this?
Yeah.
I think so, because I think that, remember, because he was kind of like, it's coming sooner than you think.
Yeah.
So I think that he thought that Moira was going to be able to help him, and that Simon somehow that would be get him out of jail and free him of the case.
That's true. But what was really interesting was when Nancy went to go visit Nathan, he said, "You have the wrong guy. You have it all backwards. You don't know anything." And I thought he said an exact quote. Oh, yeah. Nathan tells Nancy that she's wrong for accusing him. And so I feel like that's a little nugget, though, that he's kind of giving Nancy, like, hey, you need to look more into this case. This could be a theory. Maybe Moira and Nathan want Simon to come up again so that way Nancy could get her memories back of what happened that night when she saved Rose, because maybe there's something that she's blocking out that will help free Nathan, too.
Right.
That could be a possibility. So maybe they don't want to harm Nancy. They want Nancy to work for them, to help them.
Right.
I don't know, just a theory. But I thought that really stuck in my mind when Nathan said that to Nancy, saying, hey, you're accusing the wrong person. You need to relook at all of this.
Right. Because, like, would you accuse Simon? Because technically it's Simon, but he's just spiritual. He's a ghost.
We put Simon to jail.
Yeah. Can we send Simon to jail, please?
But you know what I mean? Like, is there somebody, is it like Wizard of Oz, you know, where there's like someone behind the mask?
It could be. Well, and obviously for Simon to come about, it has to be like a ritual. So someone who knows how to call Simon, basically, through, you know, they have the whole letter of how to get him there, like, you know, cut yourself with a knife. And so, you know, I don't think, it's not only Nathan or Moira who knows how to call Simon. I think more people out there know how to do it. This, you know, and I'm kind of guessing it's the Marvins that kind of know it.
Yeah, I don't trust, like, I really, at the end of the episode, I don't trust Owen. I feel like he knows so much more than he's letting on. And so, again, you know, he's the one that was connected with Nathan. So I do think the Marvins are just as evil as the Hudsons.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And we don't think, though, that Nathan and Moira are as innocent at all in any of this.
No. I feel like if anyone out of the two of them, like, I want to say Moira is less innocent because she probably just went along because she saw Nathan was stuck.
Yeah.
So she probably was like, oh, I'll help him, and then now she's stuck. So it's not like something she wants to do. She just knows she has to do it.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Well,
sacrificing a child in any capacity is not a good idea at all.
Yeah.
Well, at least like Ted wasn't hidden anywhere. Like she was literally behind a chair. Like it wasn't as scary as Rose, where she was like in a like tight space.
Yeah. Well, that kind of, you know, with Nathan, I feel like we're going to learn a little bit more about his character in future episodes, and a little bit more about Moira and his relationship and how they're connected with Simon.
Right.
So it'll be interesting. I'm kind of a fan of this plot and how it's turning out. But speaking of fans, Sam here has a message for us.
Yes. Before we get into our next topic, I just want to thank you guys for making us the ESPN of TV talk. And without you, we wouldn't be able to be here, and we wouldn't be able to have these fun, awesome conversations, and we wouldn't be able to state our opinions. So if you have a moment right now and you're watching us in the live chat, like us on YouTube, write a comment, keep the conversation going. If you're listening to us on iTunes, make sure you give us 5 stars. And if you're following any of us on social media, tell us questions that you want us to talk about, or anything that you want to continue the conversation. We're always there. So if you want to talk to us and hang out, you know what to do.
All right. Thank you, Sam. Well, another thing I want to talk about is Nancy and Carson in the warehouse. That was a huge scene. And I liked it that them two went into it together. First of all, I loved how Nick stood up for Nancy, saying, hey, even though we're broken up, I'm not having you do this by yourself.
Right.
Nancy's like, no, I'm going to do this. We're not together. And I did like how Nick reached out to Carson, and I liked how it was her dad that went in, because that was a really good chance for them to bond together. And I do feel like after this episode, they are now working on the same team.
Yeah.
But that was really interesting when Nancy went into that hidden staircase, and that's where she saw Nathan calling out to Simon, and then she falls and all of her memories are wiped, and she slowly starts gaining her memories. What did you guys think of that whole scene?
I didn't expect it. So
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
I did too, especially when she found her journal and all of that, because that was probably something just like now very special to her, and she lost it there but doesn't have a recollection of losing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it just opened up more connection and conversation with her dad. And I think that's like so important.
Yes.
And that really, like, finally she stopped being a brat. Like, you know, like
Yes.
this whole time you're kind of like, okay, but he's your dad. Like, have a little compassion. And she was just like, no, not here for it. And then finally she's like given in all the way.
Right.
And so it's nice to see her, you know, drop all her walls for once.
Yeah. And it makes sense because Carson was just saying, yeah, after your first case when you were 12 years old, when we went to go find you after you saved Rose, you seemed so calm. And it was really her memories got wiped and it was Simon who did that.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying Rose, I feel like, has this particular part in this plot, because if Nancy's getting her memories back, you can only imagine what Rose is going to remember too, because she was from the kidnap from the start of it. And hopefully Ted can give us more answers about it too for next episode. But do you think Nancy destroyed Simon's lair for good, or do you think he's going to go somewhere else and someone else is going to rebuild it for him?
No.
I don't think it can't be. It
Yeah.
can't be. No.
I don't think so at all. I think that there was something about this episode why Simon was there. And so I just think that's the start to something. So I definitely don't think that Simon just went away quietly.
No.
He probably arrives to whichever one is being lit. You know,
That's
so
so
there's
true.
probably different ones everywhere, but whoever lights the whatever does the ritual, that's where he's going to be present.
No, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting theories going on
In the chat room.
I mean, because I think a lot of people really are confused about Lucy and Carson. And did Ryan Hudson get Lucy pregnant? Is that why he killed her? I mean, Carson is probably too old to be, to have had an affair with Lucy Sable. But I mean, it does bring up some interesting theories. Really, was there another cause for Lucy Sable's death, or what was the cause? And was there some iffy business going on?
I just wonder, was Simon around when Lucy Sable got murdered? Because I feel like you guys mentioned that this is just the start of Simon, and he right now is our big supernatural presence.
Right.
That is bad. Tiffany just wanted help. She was a lost soul. Same thing with Lucy, but Simon is no good. And I'm wondering if he's possibly a spirit from someone way back, that could have been part of the Hudsons or Marvins. And he just was gone for so long, he turned evil too. That could be another theory.
I wonder if he's connected to the coins.
He is. I think the coins stirred this whole thing up.
Right. What were they? Those ghosty demon things? Did they have a name?
No.
It was just, you saw them. Okay. I think those people work for him, for Simon. So he's the main coin and then everyone else is like
interesting.
the little coins.
I mean, that, or again, if Simon's gone, it just goes to show that there are a lot of evil spirits running around due to the Marvins and the Hudsons and what's gone on in this town for so long, and all the covering up and the different things that I think that they've just caused a stir with some evil.
It did. And another thing, speaking of covering up, the police now arrested Carson for the murder of Lucy Sable. And did we expect that it would be Karen that kind of threw him under the bus? I mean, she went into Nancy's room, she saw her journal, and then even from, in the scene where Carson was trying to help find Ted, and he picks up the bottle of water, they got his fingerprints off of that, and they're able to match it to the knife, which I think the Hudsons set Carson up for that. They got his fingerprints, and after because it just lines up perfectly. The Hudson gives him $50,000. And then Carson wants to try to get away, protect his family, then come back later. But I think they kept his fingerprints on file because they did have a dirty cop in there. And it doesn't, and it wouldn't surprise me if they had a dirty cop in there during the time Carson and Lucy that whole situation happened. And they just happened to plant the evidence on Carson.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, again, I'm just not happy with Karen this
No.
episode at all.
Well, because what I thought was going to happen was she was going to come downstairs and like her dad and Karen were going to be like, getting smoochy, and her be upset like, we were just talking about mom, like blah. But then it's like, you're getting arrested, dude. Like, I don't know. For Karen has balls. I can say that, because if she loves him, she arrested him.
Yeah.
And like had no shame.
She was a big part of it. I mean, she was the one that found Nancy's journal. And Kay's not here tonight, but we know Kay would be sticking up for Karen. We kind of been on the fence a little bit about Karen.
And again, though, she didn't have the right to take that diary.
No.
Because, again, that was not legal. So, again, they can't arrest him.
Right.
But they did.
Because they're arresting him because of the fingerprints on the knife.
Right.
But the other thing that they're saying is, they found in Lucy's journal her theories of what happened. And Nancy's like, well, that was just under a circumstance.
Right.
So it's weird that they can't really do that because that's someone's private information. But because his fingerprints were on the knife, now I think they could technically use that.
Right.
I don't know.
But Karen just, she didn't talk that one through. She just went and arrested Carson, which I just don't like. I'm not happy with that end result.
Get it? Because she's best friends with Lucy, but now she throws Carson under the bus. What is Karen's end game here?
There's something, again, though, with Karen that I have not trusted.
No.
And again, it goes back to her being best friends with Lucy. And I'm like, did something happen with them that we don't know about? Because then she said that, her and Lucy kind of went their separate ways. I don't know.
Sorry. I was like, she knew about the accident. She said she acted different after a party. So if Carson was at the crime scene, Karen must have seen him in some capacity. Leaving, being around, near. So she probably was always suspicious and just wanted to find clues or be one step closer.
Which could be the case too. And maybe that's why she went in for Carson. Maybe it was all a farce, and her actually even wanting to be with him and liking him could have been a kind of a setup.
Could be. Yeah. There's so many theories. I think we have so many suspects now.
Yeah.
But that leads us into our fun segment of Whodunit with Sam.
Yes, so this is the time. If you're in our chat room, please join. We want you to be a part of this. It's called Whodunit. So we want you to guess who done it, aka who killed Tiffany. So let's see. Susie, you can go first.
I'm at a loss.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that it was Carson. I really don't. I'm still kind of going back to tying it to the Hudson family.
Yeah.
So I'm still a little bit stuck on that theory that I don't trust them in the deaths.
But I'm going to go with the Marvins. I don't know, especially after hearing how Nathan's now connected to the Marvins and how they got Simon involved in it.
Right.
My guess is on them.
I'm gonna say Owen.
Owen, yeah.
I mean, he's a Marvin, so. But
We got a lot of
something sketchy about Marvin.
A lot of Karens.
A lot of Karens.
A lot of Karens in the chat room.
I don't blame them.
You know, that maybe Karen did it and set Carson up.
Could be.
But what is her motive? What is Karen's motive? That's what we
See,
don't know.
What's her end game here? I don't know.
But that's what we said like last week when she wasn't even in the episode, and that was kind of one of the things. I'm like, we're gonna see more of Karen next week, and oh, did we not? We did.
Is Karen working with what's her face? Lizbeth.
She could be.
She could.
Are they
about
doing
Lizbeth?
Yeah, we
secret
haven't,
thing?
because Lizbeth was kind of my. Well, I said the chief last week, but Lizbeth has always been on my top
she's
suspect list as well.
Sketchy.
I don't know who Kay would take tonight.
Kim.
I don't know. This
Shady
is
lady.
a good mystery. But another mystery I want to hear about is the new video game that's coming for Nancy
Yes.
Drew. So here's our news and gossip.
So yes, they just released a new Nancy Drew video game. It is called The Midnight in Salem. It takes place in Salem. The Hardy Boys are in it.
Really?
But it is the first video game in like a 3D version, and it's from Her Interactive. The CEO is a female, and they just said that they believe that Nancy Drew is also a role model for tech women.
Yeah.
So it's kind of 21st century. It uses science, tech, and math to solve the mystery. So that is out. It'd be a great holiday gift for any of the women out there. That it's the first game in 5 years, and that's the 33rd video game.
Wow.
Do you
For
guys
Nancy Drew.
do you guys play the video games?
I did not.
I don't remember the
I-
video
This one-
game.
I did. My first one was called Stay Tuned for Danger. And I'm going to tell you guys, those video games were a little intense. I remember it was with Rick Arlen, and I was on the set of a soap opera. And I had to go into his dressing room, and like scary music is playing in the background. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm gonna get out of here. So I walk out, and there's this bomb that blows up in my face. So I'm telling you, those video games are pretty good, you guys. I think you should check it out.
Well, and it's interesting because through their beta testing, 90% of Nancy Drew's audience is obviously female. So I think that they're trying to make her, kind of a more like they said, badass sleuth.
Wow. We
like
gotta,
it.
You gotta check it out. Well, really quickly, let's get into our predictions. What do you guys think is going to happen when we come back next year?
Are George and Nick gonna get together?
What I'm saying, they're hinting it. They're hinting it. Their little hug.
Damn about that.
What about you, Sam?
I think that there's gonna be something, either they frame Bess and use Bess as their pawn now that she's part of the family, or Owen's gonna hide the situation.
Okay. I'm going to guess that the DNA test is going to come out positive, that Bess and Owen are cousins. But there's going to be more on the Marvins because now Bess is part of the family. There's going to be some more secrets that are going to come about with the Marvins. So
Yes.
I think next year we're going to learn a little bit more about that family.
Yes,
So-
finally.
Finally.
I would like to know more.
Well, before we go, Suzi G, do you want to go ahead and give away your social handles?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Suzi G Styles.
And you can find me on Instagram at storyof_Samantha.
And you could find me on Instagram at Chelsie Overocker. That's Chelsea with an IE. And on Twitter at Chelsie Overocker. All right, you guys.
Bye, guys.
Have a happy holidays. And then we will be back. I think Nancy Drew comes back January 15th.
January 15th.
And then we'll be here January 16th to talk about the after show. But have a good, happy holidays. Bye.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.